G'day, mate. The travelling man cave is in Darwin tonight ahead of a special bush summit I'll be hosting tomorrow morning on the main channel and on Sky News Extra. If you have not left winter anytime recently to come to Darwin, you don't know what you're missing. The sunsets here are perfect. I've got to say it's line ball about whether it's here or Broome, but they are absolutely spectacular. From anywhere along the beach, from the trailer club, the Trailer Boat Club, all the way up and down the casino. Some beautiful places, and thank you to everyone who's been very kind, no matter where we have been this weekend. Now, of course, the rallies have been taking place. The March for Australia, I stand by what I said in the lead up to it, which is that I hoped people stayed away. Plenty, of course, did not, and largely calm, which is good news. Some of the stuff that was said, some of the stuff that was not reported, and the way the rest of the media dealt with it, we will get to it very shortly. What about the Prime Minister on Friday at our Bush Summit? This one was in Ballarat. And he copped it right between the eyes from people who have had enough of it. And you know the Prime Minister was rattled because he was swearing like I used to on television.
I won't bullshit people. I won't say...
Really? You've never BS'd people? What about the federal election campaign with that Medicare and you were trying to scare everyone around all of that? We'll discuss that and a whole lot more with a panel that is right around the country. As I host here from Darwin, we'll go to Melbourne with Daniel Wild. We'll go to Hobart with our mate Lee Hanson. Can you believe it's 7 days since I was kicking the footy badly in North Hobart? And here we are in Darwin. I love doing this show and I love being a national program. Before I get to the obvious story of the day, I want to give you an update about the manhunt that is taking place in Victoria. Look, you can't say this bloke's got away, but it looks like he has got away. We are in the 6th day of a manhunt for a person believed to be responsible for the murder of 2 police officers. Now, at some point, this is either going to be a great victory for the police because they're going to get him, or it's going to be embarrassing because they're going to have to start to scale down. I want you to Google the name Malcolm Naden. He's a bloke who escaped from police and I think was on the run for the best part of almost 20 years. Is that what's about to happen here? We'll all have to find out together. But more importantly, let's focus on the reason why the manhunt is taking place, and that is those 2 murdered police officers. We learned via Channel 9 that their funerals will be planned for September the 8th. Detective leading Senior Constable Neil Thompson and Senior Constable Vadim DeWart will be farewelled with full police honours at a private ceremony at the Victorian Police Academy in Glen Waverley. Senior Constable DeWart's funeral will take place on September the 5th, so that will be this week on Friday, while Detective leading Senior Constable Thompson, he was, of course, the man who'd been in the service since 1989, was very close to retirement when he was murdered. That will be taking place on September the 8th. Now, a lot of people have got in touch with me saying, hey, how do we support the families of those that have been left behind? Police Legacy. There's one in every single state taking care of families of the almost 900 officers which have been who have died on duty. Police Legacy Victoria is the obvious focus here. Their website is policelegacyvic, all one word, .org.au, and a reminder about Police Remembrance Day, when we will all pause to remember not just these officers, but the murdered one in Tasmania, and as I say, the nearly 900 who have died while defending us all. Strength and love to that broader police community who was far away in Darwin. The furthest parts of Western Australia are, of course, mourning the loss of those 2 officers. I hope police find the person responsible, but I think we all are beginning to have the same feeling that that is going to be, well, now it's a needle inside multiple haystacks, and the haystacks are getting harder and harder to see. Now, let's turn to the obvious news of the day, and that is these marches for Australia. Now, the marches for Australia took place in every capital city, including here in Darwin, also taking place in many major regional places. And the media was ready today for basically a bash-up fest. This was how they were setting the scene as the sun came up in Melbourne on Channel 9.
Yeah, so anti-immigration protesters, left-wing groups and neo-Nazis will be among the thousands expected to meet here at Flinders Street Station at midday. The other major concern is that the march will coincide with the weekly pro-Palestine protests, and given each of those groups' causes, they are expected to clash.
So the media was ready, so let's get to the good, the bad and the ugly. Every protest has it, and when you have this many, and it's been pulled together in the fashion and organised with some of the words that have been said, there are going to be good, there are going to be bad and there are going to be ugly. Most people's experience, at least those that were reporting back to me on my Facebook page in the past couple of hours, have said that most things were pretty good around the country, particularly at the Brisbane event. Now, this seems to have been particularly well staged and well planned. Good to see the numbers all in a pretty peaceful way at the start of the way things worked in Brisbane. I believe Senator Matt Canavan was amongst those who was there. That seemed pretty well organised. And here's some of those who spoke to the camera. Of course, many choose not to.
We're not a racist country. We just want a good calibre of people in here.
Love migration, okay? I'm from a family of immigrants as well. The point is, how many you bring in the country? Where do you house them?
And what we want to see is a slowdown of the immigration because we're not looking after our own anymore.
The bad, now again, who throws the first punch? Those who were there can tell me, but the reality is when you get these counter-protests, and I've talked before about how I hate the counter-protest, but of course the counter-protest, well, they intermingle with the existing protest, passions being what they are, that the people are out and about on a Sunday trying to make their point means some punches were being thrown. And of course, there is plenty of people who were rather angry when they were in and around these events as well. Again, the good, the bad.
They don't care that the white population is heading towards extinction.
And whenever there's a protest, there is an ugly. The ugly at this particular protest was someone deciding to hold up a sign. I understand it to be a single person. But you know the way that protests work, in the same way that one person holding up a swastika while marching across the Sydney Harbour Bridge was the focus of why to dismiss the Palestine protests. Well, these signs are going to be used to dismiss everything that was being said out of these protests. Again, I understand these coming in and around what was taking place in Melbourne. Now, again, you can have, like I do, strong opinions about the number of people that are brought to the country. I don't believe it's a silent invasion, and I certainly don't agree with some of the stuff that has been said in relation to the organising here, particularly focusing in and around the Indian community. Not because I'm woke, not because I'm controlled opposition, not because I'm trying to secretly have a bet each way. No, because I think there are lines in the sand. That was a line in the sand that I wasn't willing to support, and I stand by what I've said about why I wasn't willing to support it. But the good news is that this thing seems to have gone off without the expectation of much of the rest of the media, which was to dismiss this from the second that it took place. But conversely, don't send me emails saying nothing happened, everything was okay. There was some problems, and they largely came out of those confrontations with the anti-protesters. But again, you can't ignore some of the signs that some people carried. Now, does that mean everyone who went to every rally believes in what one person took as a sign to a rally? Of course not. But I repeat, it's exactly the same for any other protest, including the protests that you don't like. So if somebody has decided that the way to dismiss the Sydney Harbour Bridge was to say, look at that one protest, well, then the same logic would apply here. I did not apply that logic to the Sydney Harbour protest, and therefore I will not apply the logic here. As for the police, again, thankfully, a day when either the conflict or the behaviour of most people at most of the rallies meant that there was not a huge amount of police activity today, and that's a good thing.
Police will allege that the female person was yelling abuse at the Palestinian action group, which was causing distress and causing concern to other members of the community. So that person was arrested for the breach of the peace. There was about 30 participants of the National Socialist Network who were escorted away from the park under police observation.
Brisbane Police estimate around 6,000 protesters were in attendance at today's march. I can report that one man was arrested and has been charged with 2 counts of assaulting police, and that another man was detained for a breach of the peace.
So thank you to everyone in the past few days who has shown their passion both for and against the issue. Thank you to everyone who has got in touch with me. I've read all of the comments, I've read all of the emails. To those who think I am now officially the enemy because I did not support these protests, well, I'm sorry. And I hope you continue to watch the show into the future. If you think I'm the enemy, wow, on this issue, you're not really paying attention, but we'll see what happens. All right, let's get to the Bush Summit. Next one is going to be in Darwin tomorrow. Looking forward to hosting that. It'll be both on the main Sky News channel in the morning when Laura is hosting Newsday, but also it'll be in full on the Sky News Extra channel. But let's go back a couple of days to the Prime Minister in Victoria, Ballarat, beautiful Ballarat, where of course we were for an Our Town not that long ago. And he came face to face with people who had enough. They've had enough of the rollout of the renewables, which happened in the bush to make people in the city feel good about themselves. Nobody in the Prime Minister's electorate is campaigning against these things because none of these things are happening in the Prime Minister's electorate. The farmers, were fantastic in the way that they were willing to push back and push back loudly. Now, you may well have noticed that there was a event of heckling which took place inside the room. And why not? This is the joy of an Australian democracy. I love that we live in a country where you can yell at the Prime Minister. No, you can't yell anything too wild, but that's fine. But you can yell your opposition to government policies. You may well have seen part of it, but you probably haven't seen it in full. Here is it in full from the Bush Summit on Friday.
Now someone wants to build a coal-fired power station, they can go and do it. It hasn't happened. It hasn't happened because the market's determined that it doesn't stack up. We need,
ladies and gentlemen,
we do need energy, and the cheapest form of new energy is renewables. Climate change, the science told us that climate change was real.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll have to stop if you keep interjecting.
See the pivot there? We're off into the science of climate change. The reality of the choices that have been made by people in the city means that people in regional Australia are having to bear the brunt of hundreds of thousands of solar panels and tens of thousands of wind farms. Put simply, parts of the Australian bush are being ripped up because apparently you need to destroy the physical earth to save the atmosphere. And even then, 1% of the world's problem is Australia, yet the solution seems to be one that causes an awful lot of trouble while it is being built. Not just the disruption, but the cost. Power bills, successfully, have been going up and up and up over the past 3 years. The Prime Minister was able to win an election because, of course, they pretended that they were coming ever so slightly down because they were paying the power companies not to hand on the power price increases. As the last month of inflation data came to us via July, electricity was up 13%. Yet they still say it's the cheapest form of energy. Of course, if you point any of this out, you are called a heretic because in many ways, this conversation is past logic. The way they like to say that Donald Trump is post-truth, well, many of the people when it comes to this issue are also post-logic. You're dealing with faith. You are not dealing with anyone who is interested in any way about seeing what the consequences of their decisions are. And the people who are having their properties ram-raided with these things have every right to be peed off, as anyone would be in the city. In fact, if you did anything to limit by 1 square metre a dog park in many of the electorates with the greenest or tealest of MPs, you know what the reaction would be. So there is well and truly a city and country divide. But again, you could tell that the heckling was starting to get under the Prime Minister's skin because, well, the swear words came out. Now, unbelievably, the reporting of the swearing did not exist on the 6 p.m. news. I don't know why. Well, of course we...
And I'll continue to engage, but I won't bullshit people. I won't come along and say, we're going to do something with new coal-fired power stations when it didn't happen. And I'm not going to come along and say the solution is something that might happen sometime into the 2040s.
Now, the reality is that this bloke is there for the next 3 years, given 94 seats in the parliament. He would think that he's going to be here for the next 10 years or so. And one of the reasons why he is going to be around for quite a while, whether we like it or not, and this program would be the leading one that is not a fan of Anthony Albanese nor his government. We warned you when they were in opposition, we pointed it out when they were in government the first time, and we warned Australia going into the last election. But one of the things that let us down was how bad the Liberal Party was in the social media game. Put simply, Labor creamed them for a whole bunch of different reasons, but I've got to say, something seems to be changing inside the way the Liberal Party is working, because within a couple of hours of the Prime Minister saying he's not going to BS anyone, the Libs put this out on social media, and I'll say chef's kiss and compliments to whoever came up with this. May there be plenty more over the next 3 years.
But I won't bullshit people. I won't say reducing power prices by $275. I won't bullshit people. For cheaper electricity. I won't bullshit people. Households will benefit by $275. I won't bullshit people. Cheaper energy bills.
Authorised by Ahurst Liberal, Canberra.
What about that? Written and authorised by the Liberal Party, and it had more BSs than I have delivered in the past couple of months. And you know how much I love swearing, certainly off the telly and certainly when I'm north of the border in places like Queensland and the Northern Territory. Meantime, Jacinta Allen, the Victorian Premier, well, she did not enjoy the experience, seemingly, of being confronted by the people who are most screwed over by the variety of decisions made by the Victorian government. 1, the bugger all compensation. 2, the potential penalties for pushing back. 3, the capacity of the Victorian government to essentially fast-track and ignore many of their locals and their pushback. Here's part of the heckling that she copped at the Bush Summit in Victoria.
Families, farmers, small business owners too, many are doing it tough. Some of it is because of nature. Some of it is because of nature. The bush gives you something you simply can't find anywhere else. The fresh air, the quiet, the space. And that's why also we're supporting renewable energy projects as well that are driving investment.
Look, we heard this last week. Can they drop this talking point that the reason all of this goes in regional areas is because there's more sun and there's more wind there? Anyone who has been anywhere in Melbourne at any time of their entire life would know it can blow a gale, well and truly, inside Melbourne. So the idea that no, it's all got to go further north, it's got to go into Ballarat, it's got to go into Bendigo, please. Pull the other one, it plays Jingle Bells. But in terms of the protest of the farmers, the good news here in terms of the what's next is they're not giving up and they're going to target Jacinta Allen, who actually is in an electorate that is affected by these decisions.
Farmers and fireys say their fight isn't over yet. They're planning an even bigger protest in Jacinta Allen's Bendigo electorate in 2 weeks.
We've had a gutful of Jacinta Allen. She is a train wreck, this woman.
Determined to be heard.
Now, there is a state election which is happening next year. Now, I believe that there is a very significant number of people who live in and around Bendigo, in and around Ballarat, and in fact many areas that currently have a Labor MP in regional Victoria. For some reason, despite this obvious frustration, the Labor Party at the federal election was able to hold on to everything, in fact grow the number of places that it had in Victoria. In the lead up to the next Victorian election, these groups need to get on the ballot. They need to actually have an option that regardless of whether you are from the left or from the right or from a fed-up centre, that you will have a candidate on the ballot in each of these seats to try to dislodge the current MP. Now, I hope that what we believe to be a significant number of people, if not the majority that live in those electorates, that it will be enough to change the game. Imagine the Labor Party losing its sitting Premier because the people in and around Ballarat had had enough of Jacinta Allen and the decisions that she has made. Now, it may feel like there's a very long way between now and that election, but believe me, if you are going to be trying to run from the outside, then you need all the help you can get. You need a name as soon as possible, you need an idea as soon as possible, and you need the volunteers to start knocking on doors. Put simply, you need to follow the Teal playbook here, but do it for a completely different reason. Let's see whether that happens, and I hope it does happen in the lead up to the next Victorian election. Otherwise, they're just going to keep steamrolling. As disgraceful as that is, and people can get as angry as they want, but you need to get together to link arms, to join a movement, and to change the local MP. Because frankly, political power is the only power that these people actually notice. It's over to you now, and I think there's a good chance they are going to be able to do something. Whether it's enough, we'll all find out together over the next year. I certainly hope that it is. Meantime, back to federal government issues here, and particularly issues in and around aged care. Now, once you get to that point in life, there are essentially one of two options. One, there is aged care facilities, and we know that that is for acute care. And we all know how difficult it is to have a family member in there, let alone if you are, of course, one of the family members that might be watching us from said facility. The other is people who would like to be able to stay at home. And increasingly, this is basically very close to, but not the same type of care that you can get in a facility, but a whole bunch of care that you can get at home. It is literally called the home care system. But a Senate inquiry is currently investigating the huge number of people who'd love to stay in their homes, but for some reason, the federal government does not have the ability for these people to stay in their homes. Let's quote from the Australian newspaper and their reporting of a Senate inquiry into all of these matters, which has shown that unconscionable is the description of damning figures revealing 200,000 people are waiting for an aged care package. There's a bit here, so bear with me, but I think it matters. Waiting for an aged care package in the last financial year, with damning new data revealing the staggering size of the wait list for those that are yet to receive an assessment. The number of Australians who have been assessed but were still waiting to receive care was nearly 90,000 as of March. But the Health Department on Friday confirmed for the first time the number of people waiting simply for an assessment was more than 120,000 people. The evidence confirms now that more than 200,000 elderly Australians were either waiting for care after having been assessed and approved for a package, or are waiting for that initial assessment. Now, this stuff is a disgrace, and it is going to cost money, but we know this federal government is more than willing to spend money if they think there's a vote in it. Do they have an ugly assumption that people of a certain age don't vote for them, so they're not rushing anything in here? That every single cent that they could be spending, they're not? Because believe it or not, this, of course, is a government that is willing to spend money on the credit card, and that's the only money that they have. Because we learned today that they are still going to push ahead with a plan for a United Nations climate conference to take place next year in Adelaide. Now, the previous costs of hosting these events in Madrid was $100 million in 2020. The United Kingdom spent $250 million, taxpayer dollars, hosting this event. The government has stated that it is unable to provide total expected costs related to holding this summit, and geez, I wonder why. You've got 200 elderly Australians waiting to work out if they're going to go to an aged care facility or they're going to be able to be taken care at home, and they want to piddle up against the wall $250 million. $250 million, bringing the United Nations and every other freeloader to Adelaide to declare what Australia should do when we're 1% of the world's problem. The Environment Minister was on our air this morning speaking to Andrew Clennell.
I know Chris Bowen in particular is working overtime to secure this for Australia, and we still consider it would be a really great opportunity for Australia to host that.
What a disgrace. I mean, honestly, again, every single cent that should be being spent on things like people being able to stay in their own homes, oh no, but we'll just keep, $500 million for this and $250 million for that. Something that could be done on Zoom, by the way, but of course, that would just be too friendly to the environment. No, we've got to get everywhere. We've got to have Leonardo DiCaprio coming to Adelaide to tell us we need to do something about our emissions. China coming to Australia saying that they're a developing country, despite the fact they've got a bloody space station and they've built 2 Olympics this century. Pull the other one. Now, finally, while you were enjoying a weekend, as I was, we still keep paying politicians to talk to us all like we're children on Romper Room. Here's some of the baby garbage that was playing out. Well, technically, you weren't working, but you get my point. You're in the real world and they're doing garbage like this.
Hi, Jana Stewart. Senator Stewart, thank you for joining me for our War Sit Challenge today. How long are we going to be able to hold this? Probably not too long.
Oh, see if you can spot clueless Claire O'Neill in this one.
Rejected! We're taking home deposits down to 5%.
On 1st of October, the Albanese government's rolling out new support for first home buyers. Check it out online.
Yes!
There's more from the same MP.
I got this feeling inside my bones. It goes electric wavy when I turn it on.
These people are paid, depending on what committee, they $250,000. Honestly. And as for the Health Minister, who, by the way, has responsibility for aged care and has no plans to be doing anything about 200,000 people on the waiting list or waiting to be assessed when it comes to aged care facilities versus being able to age at home, what's he doing on social media tonight? Oh, fair dinkum.